for the very large employers without underwriting that raises your premiums. If you hire women, childbearing age, or employees with ongoing health issues. So I really want to encourage you. I do think that the websites are functioning much better. We got a bad news, good news email last week from a woman who said, I tried 28 times to get through and I couldn't get through, but when I did get through, I saved $5,000. So those of you who are looking on the individual market, I hope that as of today, they're working day and night now to get this right. There's no excuse for it. I'm not trying to make any excuses. It's not just about overload that people are coming to it. So hopefully all the glitches are going to be out. But I think that it offers a tremendous opportunity, particularly to small businesses that have not been able to provide health care at all, health insurance to their employees. So I really hope you'll go to the websites. Meantime, out in the hall, I think, Robin, you had, what is that one, small business? And we've got a small business, Get Covered Illinois, fact sheet, so check it out. There are navigators and what do we call it? Assisters that our offices can all connect you with, who can also sit down and go over that, help you make sure that you can see all the options and compare them. And that goes for individuals. So if you know people who really need to get insured, please call our office or any of the other offices and we'll help you figure out what's best.
Could I just give you a direct response on how it's affecting small businesses? The General Assembly, and with the help of our Congresswoman, the county was able to get a waiver called the 1114 waiver, which allowed us to sign up for 1 year ahead of January 1st of next year, people for Obamacare. We've signed up over 94,000 people so far. We expect will be about 115,000 by the end of the year. Most of these people are part-time workers. They're individuals whose incomes are low and have not had health care. Because we've been able to sign them up early, we've actually had an influx to the county system of significant federal dollars. And in the budget presented last week by President Preckwinkle, we reduced the taxpayer subsidy to our healthcare system by $72 million, which allows this budget to have no increases in taxes and no increases in fees. The fees clearly would have affected small businesses. But more importantly, we're making sure people are covered. So if you have part-time workers who are not making a full-time salary, please look at County Care. There's information about it on our website. There's information available at our office at 820 Davis. But it's a place where you can get the real impact on your business and bottom line in taxes that this is working and it is saving money for the overall community and its healthcare costs.
So what Larry's talking about, it's Medicaid, and so please check it out. The expansion that we did of Medicaid is mainly for single adult individuals with no children, although County Care is happy to sign up anybody who may be eligible, who have previously been ineligible for Medicaid assistance. So County Care, which is really working well, you should check it out if you have or know of low-wage employees or people who just don't have health insurance.
And I'd like to add to that, because one of the things that they passed in the federal health care reform and what the Supreme Court decision made is that it ended up becoming optional for each state whether or not you were going to implement the Medicaid expansion portion of the federal health care reform law. And we in Illinois did pass it. We expect that 342,000 people will become eligible or will sign up for for Medicaid through this. Since October 1st, we've already had 17,000 people enroll. That part of the system is working now. You can go online and do it. When you go to getcoveredillinois.gov, It's a single landing page for all eligibility now for health care. And based on some certain criteria you put in on your family size, your income, and where you live, you can get directed to either Medicaid, if you're eligible for that, or the health insurance marketplace that Congressman Chakowski was talking about there. So it's a one-stop shop now that you can go. The other thing the state's done is now an overall, really revamped its overall enrollment system into Medicaid and all of its affiliated programs. So now, when you go into that portal, you can also, if you're eligible for Medicaid, you may also be eligible for food stamps or the SNAP program and other benefits as well. And now you can do that all through one place online, which is really finally modernizing our eligibility system, which has been very antiquated in the state. And the other thing I just want to point out is doing the Medicaid expansion was very much supported by the Illinois Chamber of Commerce and pretty much every single group. There was just a few outliers who did not support it because it really helped small businesses. And you as a small business owner could have gotten had to pay a penalty if somebody who would have been eligible for Medicaid has to go and try to get it elsewhere. If you don't do the expansion and we're not allowing them to enroll. So I think it's going to be hugely beneficial. It's also being entirely covered in cost by the federal government, so it doesn't have any concerns to the Illinois state budget, which we've been struggling with, as you all know. And the other point I want to make is it's all now done through care coordination. I've been sort of our point person on Medicaid for the state of Illinois, and that's the health care program for the poor, and we've implemented it all now through care coordinating, which is it's a big sea transformation here for how we're trying to get people care, where folks now will have somebody who's actually responsible for trying to keep them healthy. Rather than, as it's been, a fee-for-service, quantity is advantageous. It's to keeping people healthy is now what's going to get incentivized, and you'll actually have a healthcare home, if you're in Cook County Care, that's how they're doing it, which has been fabulous. But outside of Cook County too, wherever you are, we have various models of getting into care coordination, whether it's through a healthcare clinic who's playing the lead care coordinating role. We now are going to have hospital options through the accountable care entities that are getting developed, and we have more traditional HMO models. So it's not just, I think, getting more coverage, it's also changing the way we're providing that coverage to hopefully bend that cost curve. That's what it's been about.
I made a mistake. It's eligible for adults. The expansion is for childless adults. They can be married. The other thing I want to point out for Evanston is that we have the health center, the Erie Family Health Center, at the Civic Center. It's about to move. They're getting ready to move to a great space on Dempster, west of Dodge. Does anybody know when it's going to open?
November 4th.
What is it?
November 4th.
All right, November 4th. That'll be, and it's been, my understanding is a lot of people, there's a lot of need in our community, and a lot of people have been going there.
I just want to add one thing really quickly to what Heather said about our Medicaid expansion in the state. For the next 3 years, we're going to be getting $9 billion from the federal government to cover the expansion and to have more people provided with this health care coverage. And then after that point, the state will be responsible for 10% of the cost. So this was a program that, again, as Heather said, we worked on with the Illinois Chamber that will really protect so many residents in the state of Illinois. And I'm very proud that we did this in the state because other states opted not to do the Medicaid expansion, and it's going to end up costing their businesses and their individuals quite a bit more in the long run as a result of it.
So I just wanted to add that, so Illinois, our premiums are lower than the national average. So that's exciting. And right now we're in a state-federal partnership, and I'm encouraging the state to go into just a state-funded exchange, and we think we can even lower the costs even more by having a state exchange. So I think that if you get your insurance this year, it may even go down next year, which would be something very, very different. And then I just also wanted to say that the Medicaid program is for, you can have children, but they have to be over the age of 18. So you can be an adult, you can have, it's not just for childless, but your children have to be over the age of 18 for you to qualify. Okay, for this next question, I'm going to allow the panel to scramble for a microphone. It's not directed at anybody. So get ready. The question is, do you think that Illinois is a business-friendly state? And if so, why?
So I think it's hard to call it, and I think we really have to get pension reform done before we can be considered a business-friendly state. I just think the lack of uncertainty that is created because of this, I think just has everyone on edge. And I don't think it's fair to the employees either, because they're all knowing we're going to do something, and what is it going to mean for me? And certainly businesses don't know what might I have to be paying in the future if we don't solve this. I think there's just so much uncertainty created around that. So number one, obviously, I think we have to get that done to be in the game. We have done some real steps, meaningful steps, to become more business friendly. We did significant workers' compensation reform. I'm not sure it went far enough. I think we've got to keep monitoring that and see if we need more work on that. But you know, when you look at the Taxpayer Foundation, for example, the national group that sort of rates the various states, they put Illinois 31 on the list of states on how their business tax situation is compared to other states. So we're sort of not quite to the middle. I think most people's perceptions would be that we're in the bottom 10. That's not the reality when you take a look at it. I think there's a couple of reasons why people might have this perception, such as, you know, I think public corruption issues are big. You know, we do obviously have real challenges on that I think we have to be mindful of, because that taints people's view. And the other, I'm mindful, Adlai Stevenson 50 years ago when he was running said that, Illinois is, that said cleanliness is next to godliness except in Illinois where it's next to impossible. And, we sort of are still in that tone 50 years later. So I think there's issues there that we have to really be mindful of and keep at the forefront. But then what I want to say, I think there's a couple of structural things that really make it a challenge in Illinois. We have a huge number of local governmental entities, 7,200, way more than any other state. Huge issue to address that I don't think we can begin to get to until we've dealt with some of these pension system issues. But structurally, until we start really, and I know Evanston has been really playing the lead in looking at pulling together the city and the township, and you look at how challenging that was, right? We have got to start doing that. We have over 850 school districts alone in the state. It's insane. So that's sort of structurally one of the big things we need to do. Again, I wanted to say perception sometimes not quite reality. When you actually look at how much Illinois as a state spends, we're a very low spending state. Last time I looked at the numbers, which was about a year ago, so this may have changed somewhat, we were the absolute lowest full-time equivalent employees per capita of any state, and in the bottom 5 on how much spending we had per state. So it's not that we're a high spending state, even though people might have that perception. It's that we've got these structural problems with our unfunded liabilities on the pensions, and we've got these enormous levels of governmental entities. And the last third structural problem I think we have is the way we fund education really creates these issues for the business climate. And I think having a strong education system is obviously key for that. But we fund it very out of sync to most other states. Our share that we pay at the local level is only 28%, compared to nationally that average is like 44% of education is funded by state. And it's very much reversed on the property taxes. So our property taxes are the real problem when you get to that business tax climate. When you look at the individual pieces, property taxes are very high. We're like 43rd, 44th on that scale, because the local districts are having to pick up their share of education that the state's not covering. So I think that's the other critical piece that we have got to be addressing to really sort of move the ball forward.
I look at the state through the eyes of Cook County. And Adlai Stevenson also had a quote that he used. He used to say, "Thank God for New Jersey. It always makes Illinois look good." And I think we sometimes beat ourselves up. I'm aware of a national corporation that's looking to move a very significant number of their executives and research people to our county soon. The mayor of Chicago has had 2 successes recently with companies coming here, and they come here because of you, because of the people of Illinois, because our educational system supports whatever kind of business they need. If you walk around downtown, if you see the law firms, if you see the CPA firms, if you see the banking structure, I mean, we are the strength of the Midwest. No offense to Indianapolis, to Milwaukee, to Detroit. I mean, who wants to live there? you know? I think that sometimes we let some of the statistics and some of the people who are fighting on individual tax issues or individual pension issues demean us. I mean, our host today, AT&T, their fiber optics and their data equipment that's within the Chicago metropolitan area is second to none anywhere in the world. I mean, people who need to have data centers are looking at Chicago and looking at Evanston and places like that because of the AT&T systems and their competitors' systems. I mean, the redundancy is out there. Other places don't even still have a Wi-Fi system. So I think that this is a business-friendly community, and that what we need are the larger businesses who are employing thousands of people, because it's their paychecks that they pay to their employees that then pay for all the smaller businesses. And the one thing we saw with the shutdown, especially near wherever there were large federal employment centers, is that the small businesses got hurt more than the federal workers and the federal government, because those paychecks weren't going out and being redistributed in the community. So I think we're an extremely business-friendly community. We use our tax incentives at Cook County, be it property tax incentives or other rebates. The state of Illinois has a phenomenal department of DCEO that is out there figuring out reasonable incentives to keep people here or to bring people here. So I think we beat up ourselves too much. This is a good place to do business, and people, Dick, shouldn't even think about Wisconsin other than go hunting and fishing.
Can I do that as well? I'm on a committee in Springfield called Business Growth and Incentives, and the reason this committee was formed was we heard from the business community, how can we have a better relationship with the state, and what can we do to keep moving that relationship forward? Some of the information that I've received from it is I've had a lot of conversations with tech companies, and these companies have said, in Illinois, we have some of the best schools in the world when it comes to technology training. The problem we have is we educate our students and then they leave the state. What can we do to encourage our students with all these skills to stay here and help our business environment grow? And so working with these tech companies, we're trying to figure out, are there creative ways we can help students pay for school so they don't leave school with so much debt that the lure of a big paycheck out west causes them to leave the state instead of using that creativity here in Illinois. There are other things that we've moved forward with to make Illinois a little bit more business friendly. I co-sponsored a bill this session to reduce LLC fees. Unfortunately, that bill has not moved yet, but that's something we're moving forward with because it's twice as much to license an LLC than a corporation. And we need to do what we can to help small businesses grow. I'm also working with some local chambers, and we're forming think tanks to figure out with businesses, what can we do to incentivize more businesses to grow, and what do they need from our end to help. And last week, Robin and Daniel and I co-sponsored an event with CMS with small businesses. And we brought in state services to find out how can these businesses work with the state, and also how can they work together so we can foster this environment.
Okay, thanks. We have roughly 2 more questions we were going to ask, but we're also conscious of the time frame. So what I'd like to find out is, we can go to our 2 questions, or should we open the floor up to questions from you people? What is your consensus? You're our audience. Do you want to ask some questions, or do you want us to just keep rolling?
Floor?
Floor? All right, floor it is. Anybody have a question then for the legislator? We said that, so we better have a question. Meryl? Meryl, that's your vocal. Go ahead, go for it.
Okay. So since we left off talking about business and Illinois, and I was sitting here thinking, you think about Silicon Valley and you'll think about branding. You think about Texas, you think about oil. So when you talk about attracting business and wanting to expand, I mean, what would Illinois or the Chicago region, what would we want to brand ourselves as to attract larger business? Or do we want to?
I'll be brief. So a couple things. You know, we always hear that Illinois is last in this, last in that, but actually we are in the top 20 states in terms of innovation and in terms of international trade. We're also the fourth largest state in terms of wind farms, wind technology, which is cutting edge, and green technology. Those are the three things that the president has said we need to focus on in this country to grow. So I feel like for Illinois, we are on that cutting edge, and we just need to, in my opinion, we need to really focus on that. Because to me, you know, you can move a B to an A, but it's hard to move a D to an A. So let's go with our strengths. Let's move forward on those three areas. And really, I mean, we're in the middle of the country. We're at a great location for all those kinds of things. So.
Yeah, I mean, so first of all, obviously, we need to leverage our strengths, and we have this burgeoning, growing tech community, which is very powerful and important. And we have this nexus of universities and research labs and agriculture, along with biotechnology. It's a powerful mix that we need to leverage. But I would even take one step back and further abstract the discussion. And we often get involved in these kind of political fights with what's happening in Indiana and Wisconsin, and I recognize they're not far, and that's important, but we also, I think, just should be honest about Larry's point, which is that we, as a cultural matter, as a matter of economic and social diversity and vibrancy, we are the absolute capital of the region between the coasts in this nation. And that vitality should be a magnet. And every talented, ambitious, big dreaming 16-year-old in the country who lives not on the West Coast or the East Coast should right now be dreaming of coming to Chicago to make their fortune. And because of the negativity, some justified, much not, but all very powerful, that we enable to surround our discourse, I think it's very hard for the brilliant 16-year-old high school junior in Omaha to be thinking about how one day she's going to come to Chicago to change the world. But we need to make ourselves a place that enables that person to dream those dreams, and we need to talk about ourselves in a way that facilitates that person dreaming those dreams, because that's what built Chicago. The Midwest has had a tough 30, 40 years, partially because agriculture has become so technologically efficient that it unfortunately employs many fewer people than it used to, and partially because of the very well-documented leakage of manufacturing jobs. And for much of that period, the Chicago metropolitan area withstood that slippage because we were where the refugees came, from Detroit and Cleveland and Indianapolis, as those other areas experienced trouble. This was the place that was going to, by virtue of its cultural and social and economic vitality, draw in the talent. We need to restore that kind of self-image and be the magnet that we really have all the pieces in place to become.
You know, one of the stories about how Chicago got to be called the Windy City relates to its bid for the World's Fair at the turn of the century, the one that we didn't win, the one that went to St. Louis. And the selection committee met in San Francisco, and the Chicago delegation went, made its presentation, and the San Francisco Chronicle wrote an editorial the next day and said, the way the people from Chicago are bragging and blowing about their city, it must be a windy city. And I think that what we've got to do is get that back. We've got to remind people about the strengths of this area. While we work on the issues of violence, while we work on the issues of education, while we work on the issues of healthcare and governmental funding, but we've got to let the rest of the world know that this isn't the murder capital of the world. This is a vibrant community with a lot of good people, 5.25 million people. We've got more people than the state of Iowa, more people than the state of Wisconsin, more people than the state of Minnesota, more people than the state of Indiana, just living in this county alone. And 99% of them are the hardest working people around. So I think we just have to brag a little bit more about ourselves while we work on our problems.
I made a small suggestion to the Chicago Tourism Bureau for a little slogan to bring people to our beautiful city. No sharks. Think about it.
Yeah, we're running out of time, but okay. Back there. No, yeah, young lady.
Can you tell us the status of the smoking ban on campuses?
At this point in time, it has not passed the House. And my understanding was that each university were passing it themselves. So it was happening on each university individually, and leadership in the House felt like, we'll let that continue. You can just continue to keep passing it university by university. So I think it's fair that we try again next year, because it's a lot easier, as we know, to pass something statewide than to have to go through each university and pass it on each campus. So I think we'll be running that bill again.
Okay, thank you. One last question. Lady right there.
So, the nonprofit sector is a huge sector, and yet we never hear with the healthcare rollout, with business incentives, about how to help the nonprofit sector. The grant support from state, federal, and local governments has disappeared. So, tax incentives don't help small nonprofits offer health care to their employees. A lot of the small nonprofits that I work for say, wow, this is great. We're just going to give $3,000 to everybody, and they'll go get their own health insurance now, and we're going to just stop offering it. So what can you do for the nonprofit sector to help us take advantage of a good business climate?
Well, I'm not sure I'm understanding the question, but the not-for-profits are considered small businesses and have the same advantages on the marketplace that we've created, Get Covered Illinois, and the federal marketplace. So I would go to shop and take a look. So regardless, again, of the size of your the number of employees that you have, you would be eligible for all of those discounts. The 35% now, the 50% in January. No.
Right, she gets a different
No.
tax credit. She gets a different credit on something else. There's another credit.
Okay, I promise her when we get out of here at 9 o'clock, and I'm going to make true to my word. I would really like to thank all of our legislators today. Dan, Rose, Rob, thank you very much. I know you're all busy schedules, so we really appreciate you coming out and talking to us here in Evanston and talking with the business community. We really appreciate it. Couldn't have done it without AT&T. Thank you very, very much for being responsible. We have a
Quickly, I'd like to make a brief announcement. The Evanston Chamber of Commerce is sponsoring an event in November along with President St. Francis Hospital. We invite you all to attend. It is it's titled Navigating the Affordable Care Act, a Business Perspective. It's a luncheon. It's going to be held at St. Francis Hospital. So we invite you all to attend and to also let everyone know that it's available. November 15th.
Okay, thank you all for coming. We really do appreciate it. Rodney, wait.
I have one question. You got 3 minutes left, right? One quick question. We keep talking about education and how we can influence and keep people here who are great teachers and educators. What can we do to bring more money to keep the good teachers here so they won't go looking for better paying jobs in another municipality or state that will give them what they need instead of leaving Evanston? Is there anything we do about that?
Well, there is an effort underway to look at our education funding formula. We created a legislative panel to look into that, and it's Heather addressed this earlier. It's a long overdue, crucial effort. And I don't want to get too parochial about it, but I would point out that because of the interplay between the way in which the total property wealth of a school district and the number of students living in poverty in that school district interact with one another in the funding formula as it is. Evanston is a pretty unusual set of school districts, and we could envision significant changes to Evanston depending on what comes out of that committee. So I think it's an important thing to look closely at, broadly as a matter of social justice, how are we going to massively improve on how we fund schools, but specifically for Evanston to look and see what the recommendations of that committee would mean for communities that are comparatively high